Cashflow, Savannah, where the dreamers dwell. Get your hustle on and that wealth build. From the dirt to the gold, every story's untold. Cashflow, Savannah, where ambition takes hold. Started with $1, stretched it to a mile. Every setback just to set up the
Welcome to
style.
Cashflow Savannah podcast. We are on location today. Chandler and I are in one of our favorite units that we manage. It's called Just Peachy. It's right here in Savannah, Georgia. We have two of our favorite people on the couch with us. We have Andy and Laura Robinson. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us. We're excited.
You're very special. Like, this is a big deal to us.
That's the first one in a unit. So this is a lot of fun.
This is it. And you are local real estate investors. We met you all through the Cashflow Savannah meetup, which we love. Thank you for supporting.
Yeah.
We're so excited to get to know you guys today. That's what this podcast is all about.
Great. And we're excited too.
Well, introduce yourselves, kind of tell us who y'all are, what y'all did, and then we'll kind of get into the fun stuff and the real estate stuff. So, Andy, go ahead and take it.
I'm Andy Robinson. We've been investing in real estate probably for 30 years now.
Yeah.
Ever since we got married and we couldn't afford a nice new house. Bought a fixer-upper, and that was before YouTube, and you could YouTube everything how to do. But thankfully, I had an uncle who was very handy, and we went to the library a lot and learned lots of things, had good friends that would come over and help. So that's kind of our intro into real estate, and let you tell a little bit about yourself. And
Yeah. So I'm Laura. When we met, we sort of sat down and mapped out some goals as we were getting married and starting our life together. And one of those was that we wanted to retire early. So we saw real estate investing as something that we would add to what we were doing on our normal jobs. So we were not only working our 40 hours a week at our normal jobs, but we started real estate investing and started flipping houses. So that's really how we got into it. And then as our kids started to get a little bit older and they were going to graduate from high school and move to college, we thought, okay, it's time to sort of replant ourselves. What's our second career going to be? And we found a love for short-term rentals. So back in 2021, we bought our first short-term rental here in Savannah. We had some in other areas, and we fell in love with the city. Our realtor kept telling us, you should move here. And we were like, we don't know about moving there. And then we found ourselves here all the time and fell in love with the city and permanently moved here to continue investing in real estate. We sold the rest of our assets and have been buying short-term rentals in the area ever since.
Well, what were your careers previously before real estate? What were your careers?
So I actually have a degree in interior design, and I did store planning and retail interior design for 25 years.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So super fun, but the corporate jobs aren't as creative as being able to do short-term rentals. And so it's really a great outlet to really be able to be fun. You know, people want something a little bit different. So that's what I loved about it.
I was in law enforcement for 26 years and retired as a police.
Nice. So you have a decorator and someone in security. That's a great nation.
Short-term rentals,
We need a former police scrub staff.
when you need somebody at 2 a.m., you know, who's full out.
Man, I have the sheriff with me quite often. I'm in real estate, so I really appreciate our law enforcement. Wow.
We've had to call them too. So
I want to ask first question. When y'all got married, how did y'all kind of get on board with real estate? I'm a younger guy with a girlfriend as well, and kind of getting on that same level of like, hey, I want to throw all my money in real estate, or I want to throw all my money here. How did y'all kind of find that balance where y'all both wanted to do that one thing?
I think it was actually out of necessity. So, I mean, we had a small rental house when we first got married. It was a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. It was $500 a month, and that was a lot of money back then. But we were able to save up some money. We found a house that went on the market down the street, and we purchased that for $89,000. And it was built in, I think, the 30s. And the lady that lived there had lived there pretty much her whole life, and the house needed a lot of work.
Yeah.
So we went in and basically just started ripping new carpet out, repainting cabinets and all that. And that's kind of how we got into real estate. And then we found out we actually liked doing it.
Yeah. Okay.
So in our off time, that's what we would do a lot, especially at nights and weekends.
Yeah. Because I know me and my girlfriend, we kind of have a different, I'm a kind of a risk taker. She's very conservative. So finding that happy medium where she's like, I want to save money.
Yeah.
Get rid of that money. Get rid of that cash. Throw it all into this.
It is a balancing act because I'm definitely the risk taker. I'm like, hey, I just found this property. We need to put a contract. And he's like, we didn't even see it. Like, what are you talking about? But actually, I think that does help us balance because sometimes where I'm just ready to go out and make a move, he's like, okay, let's put numbers down on paper and actually figure out like if this is a good deal or not. And so it does help to have that balance.
We made some really good deals and some not so good deals along the way. But we've learned a lot. There you go.
But I'll have. What market did y'all start investing in? I know now you're in Savannah, but where were you previously?
Yeah, we were in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Charlotte, wonderful.
And we were in a little area in the outskirts where we could buy within like 3 different neighborhoods. And we flipped a lot of houses in those areas. And it kept our kids in the same school district and they kept them with the same friends, even though we moved every 2 to 3 years and we avoided those capital gains taxes. And so by doing that, we were able to continue to roll that money into additional properties as well as save money so that our kids went to college debt free.
Wow. And y'all were doing the live and flip. Is that right? You lived in it. You did all work yourselves.
80% of the work we did ourselves.
What work did you not do?
So major plumbing and electrical, we did not do. We did almost everything else. We don't refinish hardwood floors.
I tried that.
No, not so fun.
So I got 8 square feet done. I was like, call a guy. I'm done. I'm out. It was awful.
Yeah. But there's a lot. And even if you're young and you don't know a lot, we said, okay, every house we're going to learn a different task. And, I went to Home Depot when they had a tile class to learn how to lay tile and, taught ourselves a lot of different things. And people don't realize how much money you can save doing that. I mean, even just painting. If you don't know how to do anything else, pick up a paintbrush and paint. That'll save you a lot of money.
That's a good tip that no one talks about because most people probably don't even know that Home Depot does those classes. I don't know if they still do.
I don't know if they still do, but back then they did. And I had a VHS tape that we put in the...
Right, because there was no YouTube, and they would have these classes like every other Saturday and the Sunday. You'd get an orange apron. Yeah, I remember. You're bringing me back. Have you ever seen that?
I haven't seen that. I've seen classes at like Sherwin Williams. So we'll do some class for something.
Pottery Barn does like interior design classes.
I didn't realize that. Yeah. There's just so many resources for people, and I mean, just good for you for figuring it out. I've told so many new investors that don't have money, and I'm just like, do the work yourself and save up for the products that you have to buy. Save for the sheetrock. When we had our first home that we ever bought, I would go pick up all the supplies and then I would pay the labor. I've never done sheetrock. It's just beyond me. I paid for everything myself. I would have a list from the guy and I'd have it there when he got there. And we saved a fortune doing that.
Sweat equity is a real thing and it adds up over time.
I wish y'all still had those properties in Charlotte because Charlotte blew up, didn't they?
Yes, it did. But you kind of have to say, I can't look back because you never know. If you're happy with where you are now, then you can't look back and say, we would have changed this or we would have changed that. I mean, it's great, but it also sort of allowed us to leave our corporate jobs and do stuff like that so that we can sit here and enjoy doing what we're doing today.
Are you comfortable sharing your most successful flip? Like, what's the most you made off of a house? Do you remember?
Yeah. So I think one of them, or probably the most successful one, was we bought a house. This was back in 2004, probably. We bought a bank-owned home that had a basement full of mold. And it sat on the market forever because everybody was scared of the mold. And we just had a company come in and tell us, like, what's the real cost? And we factored that in when we made an offer on the house. We offered, I think, $160 on the house. They turned us down. 6 months later, they came back. Said, we'll take your $160 for the house. We were sitting at the closing table and the real estate agent for the bank actually pulled out. They had offers over $250 that they had declined over the period of 6 months because they thought they could get more. And meanwhile, the mold continued to grow. So it was real. So we went in and, had a professional company. Again, some things we don't do. We had a professional company come in because we knew we would flip it in 2 or 3 years and we needed to have a clear report on that. So we had somebody come in and do that. After it was clear, we moved in, renovated it sort of room by room. We picked, different rooms to do. Now, all this time, I've got twin girls who were 2 years old at the time. Wow. So it's a lot to sort of balance that life work and real estate, but we did it. And for a house that we paid $160 for, I think we put close to $50 into it, and we walked away with almost an additional $160 profit on that one.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's a killer deal.
That is. Can we talk mold for a minute? But it's important. People.
No.
It's such a lightning rod. It just seems like the last few years, people are so terrified of mold. And I had never heard so many guests freaking out about mold. I'm sure you hear it too. But like, what was the source of the mold is my first question.
Right. This was a partial basement, and part of the exterior wall was leaking because they did not have gutters on the house. They didn't have French drains put in. So everything was collecting in that one wall area and just seeping through the wall into the drywall.
So you address that first, and then how do they remove the mold from the interior? I'm just very curious.
So they ripped everything down to the studs in the entire basement. They treated it with some chemical. I don't know the exact details. And we had to leave it sealed off for 2 weeks. And they came back in and did actual mold testing again to make sure everything was clear. Once we got the clear to go, then we came in, had somebody reinstall, put up new drywall, and sort of started building back that area.
Okay. Because I've dealt with mold a ton in my portfolio because I too buy the worst house with the 7 murder scenes and mold. Like, that's what I'm going to buy.
Right.
I have a handful of them. In fact, someone asked to borrow our ozone machine. She said, well, get out hot smell. And I said, it'll get out the smell of a dead body. Yeah, it'll get out hot smell. But like, one house that I bought, I've always said, I understand mold is there and it doesn't really scare me because I know if you can get rid of the source, you're going to get rid of the mold. Mold is just, a refuse of water. And since you get the water out, it's gone. And I bought this one home that we manage out in Garden City. I know you know which one. And the corner of the bathroom had some, about this much black mold in the corner. But guess what there was right there? A roof leak. And I put a new roof on that and I bleached it. I just cleaned it myself. It was not like a whole basement full. It was maybe a square foot of mold. It has never returned. And I said, well, I'm not scared because I solved the actual issue. Right. And I wore a mask and I bleached it and kills it and then painted and but anyway, but we've had guests just freak out about a little dot or something. I'm like,
for us, for short-term rental guests, people who don't live in the South and don't understand humidity, and literally it just takes overnight. And I won't even use the word mold. Sometimes it's mildew or just something else growing on, a vent or something like that. And it's not full-blown mold or anything to be scared of, but they're not used to it because they don't understand the humidity down here.
Humidity and bugs.
Yeah.
Happens there. Let's get into short-term rental. This is my favorite thing to talk about. Yes. So, around telling y'all are the owner-occupied short-term rentals people. Is that correct, or do y'all have a mix?
Explain that for our audience.
Yeah. So here in the city of Savannah, most houses in the historic area, as you guys probably know, you have to have a permit for that. Well, really, even in the county, you have to have a permit for that. But in the historic area, all the wards are full. You can only have 20% occupancy for short-term rentals in those areas unless you own or occupy. So we look for multifamily properties like a quadplex that we can go in, occupy one of those units, and then short-term rent the other 3 units. Mm-hmm. So we actually right now live in a triplex where we rent 2 of the units, we live in the 3rd unit, and the income that we make off the short-term rentals more than covers what would be our 1/3 of the mortgage, all of our bills and everything. And then I'm still making money on top of that. So it's great. It's really nice. Plus, I literally live right there at my Airbnb. So when somebody calls and says there's an issue, I'm like, yeah, we can literally be there in like 5 minutes. Yeah.
And we actually started that way with a quadplex. One of our daughters was a SCAD student and she didn't want to live on campus anymore. She wanted to live off campus. So we were like, how can we afford to let her live off campus and maybe turn this into an investment opportunity at the same time? And that's how we learned about the...
Yeah, so she's on the deed. It owns 25% of that property, right? So she occupies the 1 unit and then we short-term rent the other 3, which has been great.
Well, and just to educate the listener in case they're not comfortable, I get questions about this all the time as an agent that moves a lot of short-term rentals personally. People go, well, I'll just do that to get a certificate. It's not easy. You have to declare it on your taxes as you have to make a homestead exemption, I believe. You have to have your driver's license. Like, it is involved. You can do it and live elsewhere, but they're not going to make it easy on you. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. They don't make it easy on you, and you have to redo that every 12 months. So like this fall.
In what way?
Ours comes up with the city. When we renew our certificate, we have to again show that our driver's license, our proof of residency, voter registration, car registrations, things like that go with that property so that we can't, and they do keep an eye on that stuff, which they should do.
When I had a client, his daughter was heading to SCAD and he said, I want her to live off campus. I want to invest. And I sold him a duplex. And I said, hey, if you're putting her in 1 unit and she's 18, what does she care where her homestead is, right? It doesn't matter. They do not live in Savannah, the parents, but she legally moved here, got her driver's license, and sure sure enough, she was able to get an owner-occupied certificate for the upstairs unit. And he's able to put her to work. She helps him run the short-term rental. They decorate it. They have a place to stay when they come visit. Like, it was just such a win for their family, and they're now looking for their second. So the owner-occupied option is really fantastic in this market. Tell us what you love about the owner-occupied thing, living right there, and tell us what you hate about it. Because there's always good and bad.
Yeah, there's good and bad. I do love that we're close. Personally, we love living in the historic area here in Savannah because it's amazing. The things I don't like is, my dog goes out back and barks, and I get a guest that complains, the neighbor's dog is barking. We're not always, if people put two and two together, but I don't always say, hey, by the way, I live right next door. Sometimes that, people may be a little bit uncomfortable with that. I want people to feel like we're watching them or keeping an eye on them or anything like that. So there's the good that we're right there, that we're close to things. If somebody, sends us a message at 1 a.m. and says, hey, there's an issue, smoke detectors beeping, something like that, it's real easy to go fix those things. But then there are the negatives that you're kind of right there. Guests do expect you to be on call all the time. So that's a little bit of a negative sometimes when you are super close, that you feel like, oh, I've got to say yes, I've got to go over there and fix it, versus saying, I'll just have my handyman come tomorrow morning.
And we also live on the bottom floor of triplex. Yes, upstairs, and sometimes they can be a lot loud. Usually it doesn't bother us.
That was by design. I said, if we're going to live in a unit, we should live in the lower unit. When people get really loud, I try to remind myself I'm not going to get mad. That's money up there walking around. And so I'm just going to live with it.
And don't you love that they're leaving Sunday?
Yeah. That's one of the things that we love about short-term rentals. A lot of people always ask about long-term rentals. And we tried that, way back in like 2008, 2009. We didn't love long-term rentals. I love a short-term rental because I know they're in for a certain amount of time. I can get in after them, check things, make sure everything's in great shape, get ready for the next guest, and sort of move on. And I'm not dealing with anybody long-term.
I agree. Especially with you living there. I have one in my backyard and I love it and I'm thankful for it, but I'm also happy when they leave. I don't want them there for 3 months.
Right.
So the question I have is, how do you scale like an owner occupied? Let's say you want to move out and get more short-term rentals. Is that a way you can do it, or do you have to live in it?
Here in the city, you have to live in it, but there is a wait list for non-owner occupied. So as soon as we bought the triplex we live in, we put our names on the non-owner occupied. Okay. Now, whether that's 4 years or 6 years from now, when we'll come up and get a non-owner occupied certificate, I don't know how long that'll take. So at some point, we would be able to leave that. Mm-hmm. If we decided to move out and move to another location, we would lose that owner occupied certificate. Yep. So we would definitely kind of keep that. We try to make sure when we buy properties that we go into them with the long-term thought that, if this is a multifamily and we're going to owner occupy, we need to make sure, like even with our daughter, she understands she's there for a long time, but she's getting free rent. So she's not going to complain. So it's a win-win for everybody. It really is.
Yeah. So that's the key, is just make sure you understand that you could be there for 4 to 6 years.
It is.
Again, and we also have properties that aren't in the city. We don't have to own it out yet.
Outside of city limits.
So we own in Thunderbolt.
You got one of those.
We got one of those last certificates before Thunderbolt closed theirs out. And then we also own out on Whitmarsh Island, which we found Whitmarsh and Millington Island seem to be great locations here at Savannah. People love to be between Tybee Beach and the downtown area. Most of those are sort of in neighborhoods where people feel like it's safe and family friendly. And so that hits a different clientele than some of our clients downtown.
Interesting. What's the difference in clientele between downtown and the revenue?
Sorry, I want all the drain.
So I would say downtown hits everybody. You get a lot of couples traveling. We get a ton of girls trips, whether it's bachelorettes, just people, just like this. Whether it's people, we get a lot of women who say, like, I'm getting together with my high school friends or my college friends, or I get together with my friends once a year and we take a trip and we're coming to Savannah. So we hit a lot of that. We see more of our families going out more towards the island areas and the choir areas. They want to make sure, A, they're staying someplace safe, and B, they have a little bit of room to spread out, especially if you have kids. Most of our properties downtown don't have really yards or areas outside to play. So a lot of people really enjoy a backyard. Here in Savannah, a fire pit and small things like that make a big difference in your backyard. So having those amenities and some place for them to spread out on the islands makes a big difference for families. I would say revenue It's kind of interesting when you look at that because I think the revenue numbers are pretty close to the same based on the investment amount, but I do see a difference in occupancy. Downtown definitely gets, our occupancy levels are close to 74 to 76% downtown, where on the islands, we're probably hitting closer to about 63%, much higher in the summer, but then that drops off in the winter. And for those properties out on the islands, we also see in the slow times like January into February, decrease in prices, but people will come and spend 2 or 3 weeks, maybe even a month, because they're trying to escape the cold weather up north and they want to come down to Savannah, but they want to have a house they can live in.
Okay. I like how you said it too, Laura, in that it's similar revenue, percentage wise, but you're spending a lot less on the islands. Like on the islands, I have one under contract for a client. It has a pool and it is under contract for $499,000 and it's a 5-bedroom home. You would never find that in the historic district. Or never. Can I say it again? Never, ever. So, but they're going to do well with that. But yeah, you can invest less and it's commensurate. And it's so funny because people always ask me, I'm sorry, I'm going to diverge into just investment real estate in general. They'll say, well, how do I know which areas are good and which areas are bad? And I said, look at the sales price and look at the rent comps. That'll tell you everything about if the street is great or horrible, like it's heaven or hell. And the price is going to tell you all of that. So I've had some people go, oh, to me, it's so obvious, but of course I live here. Right. So
downtown, this can vary from one lot to the next. Very quickly. On the islands, the neighborhoods are a little different, but they're similar. The size of the house, the amenities, things like that make a difference. But
one thing I've noticed on Wilmington, I'm always looking for buyers out there, always. And everybody wants to either have a pool or put in a pool. And a lot of the properties out there have septic in the backyard and it really kills it. Have you ever dealt with anything like that?
We have not. We do have a couple properties that have pools, but maybe one of the ideas to look at, we have a property actually in the historic area that has one of those small, I'm going to call it a cowboy pool.
Yeah.
It's like, a water trough that is not, it sits on top of the ground. It's not going to interfere with septic. And I will tell you, honestly surprised about how much that property brings in. It's got a pool heater on it, so it's heated year round.
So it's a pretty good sized pool, is it?
It's a pretty good sized pool. You would probably fit 6 to 8 people in there. It's a decent size, but the amount of revenue that brings in because people want a pool is super.
People all year.
Oh yeah.
Hot tub, kind of something like that.
Yeah.
Because it is the number one amenity in Savannah.
It is. And
everybody wants
not a lot of the competition has pools and hot tubs. That's not because we're in a warmer environment. I feel like if you go up to the mountains, everybody has a hot tub, something like that. But here in Savannah, you don't. And people love pools. It's so nice here year round that you can use the pool year round. And these folks were smart enough to build a nice exterior deck. So even just if you're not in the pool, sitting out there having a drink, a glass of wine, a cup of coffee in the morning, it's just a really nice, super small space in the backyard, but really nice. And people see that picture of that pool, and that's why they go.
Right.
I just want to ask, what's the difference in revenue and occupancy for the pool versus non-pool or hot tub or whatever y'all want to call it, cowboy pool?
So I think that this property in the historic district with this small little cowboy pool is probably bringing in an extra $18,000 a year.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. That's a rental target. Talk to us about pool maintenance.
We're firm believers that we are not pool experts. And so we actually have a pool company come in weekly and take care of that. I would never want to take the chance of putting the wrong chemicals in, having the wrong chemical mix. We do have instructions so that if we need to go in, their pool stays covered all the time. But if we need to go in and sweep the pool, we have vacuums. We have things so that we can go in and do small maintenance items. But when it comes to water testing, we really believe for safety reasons, we should have a professional take care of that.
What do you pay for stuff like that?
So it's $50 a week is what we pay for
$18,000 next year. Makes sense.
Yeah, it does. We typically just sort of build that into a cleaning fee. So the guest doesn't see, hey, I'm paying an extra $50 to have my pool cleaned. It's just part of the cleaning fee that rolls into the house. And so they don't really notice it.
Everything that people are buying nowadays are like hot tub, hot tub, hot tub. You just eat it. Because revenue and house prices in historic district aren't quite matching up right now. Right. It's just overpriced based on our revenues. So, but with the hot tub, it's closer, I would say.
Points the difference. Big difference.
Those amenities that nobody else has are very limited to make a big difference.
And $18,000 a year, that's $1,500 extra a month. That could be the difference between cash flowing and not cash flowing on that property. Just by adding that amenity that people knowing they want it and providing them with what they want. We're in business, right? Like, if you're going to stay in business, you have to provide a product that the end user wants and they'll pay for. Yep. So what's one of your other favorite, what's something else that you think has made a big difference in your short-term rental business?
So for us, I think it's just, I'm always the person who says photos are hugely important for property. If somebody's scrolling through Airbnb, Vrbo, even your direct booking website, they're scrolling through that. What's going to grab their attention? And if you get on one of those sites and you've got, 15 properties popped up on the page in front of you, it's the one that's going to have probably color, good lighting, something to draw your attention. And if you can get somebody to click on that first picture and get their attention over the rest of the properties, you're a lot more likely to get them to book that than just scrolling through. So I think especially now, competition is strong. The market is oversaturated in a lot of areas, not just in Savannah, but in the Southeast at least.
That's real.
And you've got to be different. You've got to stand out. You've got to give guests an amenity that they really enjoy. Something that's, I call it an Instagrammable moment. Where can they take a picture where, it's got to look fun? There are small things that we say are important in all the houses, which, people don't even realize, but we always make sure that we give like a coffee bar. It's something that simple. If somebody comes in at 10 o'clock at night, they don't want to run down to the grocery store and have to buy coffee and creamer and sugar. So we provide coffee bars, things like that. We don't nickel and dime our guests for a lot of extra things that we provide. We want to make sure they have dishwashing liquid and, hand soaps and laundry detergents. And sometimes those small things are what really makes a big difference. So once you get them there, you can get some really great reviews. Here in the historic district, we found that box fans and noise machines are super important because it can be loud, especially people who aren't used to living in a city environment. It's very different. So doing some of those little things, we get more comments on noise machines and box fans than any other amenity.
That's something. And how much is a box fan?
Right. I mean, $24 deeper or Walmart.
Well, that leads into one things I like to talk about is let's talk about the economy. We're 2025 right now. We're in fall of 2025. We're about to go into our second busiest month in Savannah, which is October. We're in the market every day. We're here to tell the truth, and we're not here to be like, we're making millions. What's wrong with you? Pay us. I don't know. But like, how's the market been for you? I know you run a good business. I know you have great properties, as do we. We're all in this together and everyone's struggling. And I'm even seeing it from the vendors in the short-term rental world. We're seeing vendors go out. We're seeing them, make concessions that they normally wouldn't have. Like, you see the pain everywhere because we're all in it together. How's this market been for you? And how have you kind of stayed above it? How have you kept going? Give us some help here.
So I'll say that spring, we were actually pretty surprised. We were up about 18% year. But as soon as about the middle of summer hit, August is always a little bit slow for us here in Savannah, but we saw that slow down a lot more than normal. And surprisingly, September is really hitting hard also. I think there's a number of factors that play into that. First, the economy is not great right now, which leads to a lot of people don't have the extra income to go spend a few days a weekend, a long day, something like that. We're also seeing people who are more savvy because the economy is not great, and they're going to wait until the last minute to book, which means we've had to reduce prices just to get people booked. And what I've been trying to tell everybody is if you're looking at it, that only 50% of the houses, I think right now in the historic district, AirDNA says only 54% occupancy for houses in the historic district. So I've had to tell some of my owners, hey, do you want to be one of the 54% who got booked, or do you want, to sit empty? And so we're really having to adjust prices a lot. We really think for September, and we're not totally through the end of the month, but I think we're down about 18% over last year. Our occupancy levels aren't down that much. We're only down about 6% occupancy, but we've had to reduce prices to put heads in beds. Which is really hurting. So, we're trying to look at doing a few different things like doing some paid advertising. We're also working with somebody who specializes, a marketing firm who specializes in like SEO and key marketing words. So we're trying to sort of boost some posts in that way. We're also trying to go in and update our listings a little bit more, add some new pictures, maybe change up some descriptions. so that we seem fresh for the algorithms for Airbnb and Vrbo, which are the two biggest ones. And, just kind of make sure that we're doing all we can to sort of push those and boost them. But it's definitely a tough time. And we're seeing a lot of people really struggling. We even have some of our cleaning teams who aren't making the amount of money they're used to. And that's really hard for them because, that's their only income based on what they're getting from tourists coming in. So we're sort of rethinking some of that and trying to spread some things out. And, we've got to take care of everybody here. I think it's going to come back, but I think definitely it's probably mid 2026 before we see, anything major shifts. The good thing is spring is always great for us here in Savannah. So I think we'll have a great spring, but we got to muddle through this fall, and
we're already booked for spring. We just wish we could get booked for the end of 2025. It's crazy. I'm like, well, April and May and March are done, but how about September? It's crazy.
Laura spends every night online. You're trying to figure out the pricing and using different software to make sure that she's got it priced.
Yeah. And one of the things we're doing as we're lowering prices is making people book for longer stays. So if I'm going to lower a price to, there's a certain level we don't go below because I don't want a certain type of clientele. But once we go to a lower price, instead of maybe a 2-night minimum, maybe I'm going to push you to a 3 or 4-night minimum, just depending on the property. So that's helped keeping things a little fuller and help keeping the occupancy up. The nightly rate has still dropped a lot.
Have you guys ever dropped properties or said, well, it's rentable short term anymore? Tell me when you've had to pull the plug.
So we have not pulled anything on personal properties, but we have had a couple properties that we manage for owners that we've pulled the plug on. Mostly it's not even an issue of it not renting. It's an issue of an owner not understanding where pricing is right now. We actually just did this a couple weeks ago, and the owner set some minimum prices that we could not get their property booked at those minimum prices. She had, numbers in her head from 2 years ago, and she said, but we've always gotten this. But we're not going to get the numbers here in late 2025 that we got 2 years ago. I mean, that was right after COVID, everything was great. People were getting high prices. All you had to do is list a property on one of the OTAs and you got booked. But that's not the market we're in right now. So we sat down and had a heart to heart and said, I don't think we're the right people for you. And, we want everybody, it's a symbiotic relationship. We want everybody to be happy. So if we're not happy and they're not happy, then nobody's making money. So we have let a couple of those go for similar reasons.
Some people that don't want to take care of their properties and upkeep.
For management side of things, when people don't reinvest, it's just so frustrating. Yeah. It makes it really hard for them.
Because it's going to help them in the long run. Yeah. I don't know. You just have to try to get them to understand that.
I've been having that conversation 3 to 6 times a week with owners, and this is potential and current. I'm going, if I can't make a buck managing for you, that means I'm losing money managing for you. You need to understand that. Or if your property either isn't in a good condition or it's not booking for whatever the reason, that's not free to me. That's right. Still a liability. Yeah. We've had some tough conversations this year. The other thing is they keep wanting phone calls. Call me so that you can tell me what's going on. Yeah. I don't have anything to tell you.
Yeah, we have seen that. A lot of owners want more communication, but if things are slow and you're not getting booked, I also think because rates are down, they're not making as much money, which in turn leads them to not put money back into the house. But I have to tell them, if you've got maintenance that needs to be done or things like that, if you defer that, you're going to get negative reviews. And then that's going to sink you even lower in the algorithm and you're going to make even less money. It's super hard when people are really struggling to see that.
And another thing that I don't think a lot of people mention are the hotels. I think the amount of hotels also created saturation. And I think hotels and short-term rentals go hand in hand anywhere you are. And just right outside, we got 40 units right here. Mm-hmm. Just this building, brand new 40 units, another 25 right up, brand new. And they're putting pools on the top. They're doing, this one's going to have a steakhouse right on the bottom, which I think for this one, it'll be really cool to have a steakhouse right out front. But it's still making it super saturated, and they can charge $200 a night, no cleaning fees, no taxes, no this, no that. So I think you have to keep that in mind too. There's some really big players in Savannah that are coming in and spending loads and loads of money. I don't know how they're making money. They're spending a ton of money.
We've had this conversation a million times. I'm sorry. opposites on this. Usually I agree with everything he says, but mostly because he can throw a baseball 102 miles an hour. But other than that, I disagree. But these guys don't spend that money without the research. And we have doubled the size of our convention center. Tourism, it keeps going up. It is a beautiful city. It's well preserved. And I think the guest books a short-term rental is completely different than the guest that books a hotel room. That's just my opinion.
I agree with you. Well, it's interesting because if you look at some of the online travel platforms now, you'll see a lot more hotel rooms on there than you did a few years ago.
That's
It's kind of weird saying like the hotel.
A hotel room on there, but you're going to find it. But I do think, at least for our guests, we're seeing people who want to come in and have like a small kitchen and have a space to themselves. We really try to sell, like, we're not just a hotel room where you come and sleep and shower. We're going to give you an experience, sort of like sitting in this space. It's an experience. You can't get this at a hotel. So we feel like we have to stand out and be different than hotels because we can't have the big pools. We're not going to, do those things. But I also remind guests that I'm also not going to charge them $50 a night for valet parking and stuff like that. So there are a lot of advantages if you can point that out and let the guest understand the difference.
And then they can make breakfast. They can make some meals. And like one of my favorite things is when renting a short-term rental, when we travel with a couple, I don't want to be in a hotel because you have to text me like, I'll be in the lobby in 5. You just don't see each other as much. But having a living room like this, where we have our own bedroom and privacy, but yet we have a common space. When we travel with my brother and sister-in-law, I love getting a short-term rental. And I mean, we would never look at a hotel product. That's what I'm saying, where I'm either looking for a short-term rental or I'm looking for a hotel.
I agree with you. Because when we travel, whether it's with friends or families, this one's in the bed early. I'm staying up playing a game, card game or something, at the table until like 2 a.m., Yeah. So it gives you a hotel. Hey, it gives you those opportunities to sort of spread out and do some more fun stuff.
Yeah, the hotel, I wouldn't be able to go sleep.
Well, I think the hotels are providing the experience by adding all the, like, have you been to Tobardo down the street? Like they have the outdoor lounges where you can go do your own thing out there while you're in the room, blah, blah, blah. I understand, like for bigger groups, as a bigger group, I don't stay in hotels with 8 different people. We get a house. But I do think compared to like a 1-bedroom up here, 2 bedrooms maybe, I do think you start competing with the hotels for sure.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a generational thing too. I think the younger generation's probably a little bit more flexible and it's more based on price, where people who are more established probably have the money to go out and spend it on exactly what they want and not settle for a hotel room or something.
But I do agree with Julie on the fact that they do put the work in. They understand what's coming in. Like, I think it's a very positive sign that they are.
Oh, yeah.
I don't see it as a negative at all. But I do tend to see myself like competing with the hotel. I'm like, dude, if they're doing this, I got to do better than them. Yeah. That's just how I am.
Yeah.
But so that's how I keep that in mind as well. But
and we've seen even at the meetups, some people with larger portfolios and the experience in other markets coming into Savannah lately.
See the revenue. Absolutely.
Savannah's a great place to invest.
Well, when I'm putting a short-term rental together, this is how my mind goes, is that anyone that's staying in a short-term rental, at least if it's more than 1 bedroom, okay, if it's 1 bedroom, it's probably just for a couple. That might be different. That now we want this fabulous couple space. But if it's 2 bedrooms or more, I'm almost positive that one person is paying the bill for the whole place. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to sell it for that person. I want a king bed. Mm-hmm. I want to just make them go, all the person paying cares about is themselves and if they're happy. And they really don't give a puss butters.
Right. That's the freeloader sleeps in the bunk beds. They'll be all right.
There's a trundle. Don't care. Yeah. Oh, you're going to sit on the couch? Yeah, there's a sheet in the closet. Deal with it. But so that's where I'm always like, okay, who's the guest paying the bill? And how do I get them in? I have a number of beds. I have a full kitchen. I have a great location, walkability, and a gorgeous, luxurious king bed, and they don't really give a rip about the rest of them. Right. I want it to be nice, obviously, but it's kind of fun to think about the end user. And like this unit right here, clearly it was done for girl trips, and it does very well exactly for that target audience. And to your point, what you were saying previously, Laura, I was like, you have to kind of plot these out with a different mindset.
You know what I did for this one? For this one, I actually, so when I go and I guys' trips, right? Golf or something. We all split the bill, but we don't care where we sleep. We're just there. We'll sleep on the floor. But what I know is they split the bill. So actually price this depending on how much it is going to be when they all split the bill.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, these ladies to stay for the weekend, they're only going to pay like $265 per person.
Right.
And so like that's how I kind of price this place to get it as much as I can. And so that seems to be because like we actually did a parent child with the listing above. Instead of 8 people come, you get 12 girls. It's cheaper to rent both of them. It's like it's even cheaper. So I'm seeing that too. So I'm like, man, it's cheaper to just get both and have like 4 extra girls come. And so that's one thing I keep in mind is like, all right, so if they are splitting, like keep that in mind of how much they're going to be paying per person. Maybe even if you need to put an extra bed in there to say, because these are huge bedrooms.
There they are.
And you can do like 2 queens or whatever in a bed. And it's like, all right, so I get 10 people and they're splitting and it's a cheaper stay for them actually. So I keep that in mind as well.
In one of my houses in Richmond Hill, we're just all short-term rentals today, but it has 6 beds. I have a king in the master, 2 fulls in the other room, and then 3 twins. And it gets a ton of guys. Like guys don't want to share a bed. And I didn't have that in my head. I just thought, 2 families, and I was just thinking tons of kids. And I used to hate sharing a bed with my brother. Can I just say, love my brother, hated sharing a bed with him. And I was like, I'd rather have 3 twins. So that's what I did. And sure enough, it attracts a whole different guest set than what I thought. But yeah,
Really well.
it's always some little tweaks you can do.
Yeah, that's what we're thinking. Like, and especially in this market, all these owners kind of come into them like, well, if you can raise, like maybe put a bunk bed in somewhere to raise your, for sure. In this kind of market, I feel like it's kind of like the pool example is a great example. But yeah, no, it's a tough market. I know we've been seeing it. I've been just like you in the pricing, like I can't go any lower. I know. I cannot go any lower. I can't discount it anymore. So yeah, it's been a tough market.
Yeah, it's very tough. But I feel like we're learning a lot from this and, we'll come out of it stronger and
That's right.
sort of have figured out some of this stuff.
The people that make it are going to do very well. And I keep looking around the room at our meetup, and it's been getting smaller and smaller and smaller. We haven't had the attendance that we used to have. And it makes me sad. It makes me feel like I'm not doing a good job. And then I realize the market is tough. And I know a lot of people hurting, and they probably don't want to go learn about real estate right now because we're all having a hard time, right? We are. But now's when you get better, you get smarter, you fix your property up. How they say, when it gets tough, go harder. And it's very true. So I think about that. So I want to know with your short-term rentals, what's the worst thing that's ever happened? What's the worst experience you've had hosting? Because we've been through a lot in our.
So for us, it's probably parties. People, book and they say like, hey, we're booking for 4 people in a house that holds 6. And they've got great reviews. And then you start watching the Ring camera on a Friday afternoon, and there's 20 people there, and they all look like they're 16. And, those are not easy. We actually have Ring cameras at all our properties, so it makes it a little bit easier to call. This particular case was Airbnb. So I was able to send them the video call so that by 8:00 that night on a Friday night before the party was in full force, we were able to cancel their reservation and get them kicked out. Then we have some crazy things like last year during a hurricane evacuation, we had somebody bring a cat we're pet friendly, but usually dogs, and they lost it in our unit. Didn't tell us until the morning of checkout. Stop it. 30 minutes after they were supposed to check out, she says, this is an 850 square foot apartment with 2 bedrooms. She says, we lost our cat and we don't know where it is. So we're really thinking like the cat got out somehow. At one point we had 8 different people over there looking. I mean, we pulled refrigerator out, washer, dryer, we cannot find this cat. Same day checker. I've got a guest checking in that afternoon at 4.
And geez.
So at 2:30, I'm like, I don't know what else to do. Like, we just have to finish cleaning and get ready for the next guest. So I messaged the guest and said, listen, this is the craziest thing I've ever had to tell somebody, but there could be a cat in your unit when you check in.
You did not.
I mean, yeah. I mean, what else are you going to do? I mean, I believe in being open and honest.
Yeah.
So, so she just kind of laughed and she's like, okay, that's strange, but whatever. We go back home that night and think like they just let the cat out the back door and the cat left or something. I get a message about 1 a.m. that she got up. One of the guests got up to go to the restroom and saw the cat run underneath the kitchen cabinets. So we went over about 7 o'clock the next morning. Now that we knew where it was, it had climbed up in the corner cabinet and was hiding behind the corner cabinet.
There was a hole, literally about 4 inches by 4 inches. That was underneath the toe kick. In the corner, there's a cat had gone up in.
So we got the cat, took it to our house, locked it in the bathroom. She drove 8.5 hours back from someplace in Florida and picked up the cat that day.
What? We haven't had that. They got us.
I gotta have that bats.
What source have you dealt with, Andy?
Swimming backups.
I've done that. The bugger up valve or whatever.
What's feeling bigger?
And I knew when I went in there, I released the valve and I see all these wet wipes start coming out. And I'm like, it was wet wipes. And they're like, oh, we didn't use that many. And I saw like a whole container in the trash and another one by the toilet. And I'm like, use that, man.
A container?
Dude wipes are not flushable, by the way.
Yeah. So, did your toilet like overflow?
Well, that one started backing up into the bathtub, and then the toilet went flush. So
It's your fault, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It am mine.
And there's only one bathroom, so.
Oh, of course there is.
So once we got the relief valve and released a bunch of that, it was fine for the night, but we still had a good plumber to come make sure get everything out.
Yes. The issue I had was the toilet. It didn't back up he just backed up out the toilet into the hallways. All the good stuff. And then I did what's the valve called? Is that cleaning valve?
Wow.
I help out this here. And then you open those and so a little white fall.
You did not care to see on vacation.
Yeah, every once in a while, Andy comes back in. He's like, going straight to the shower.
But to be honest with you, y'all probably hosted.
We've been fortunate.
Yeah.
We have.
There's always something that's going to happen at some point in time. Getting up to it. But having the right people on call helps. And having the right plumbers, electricians, and things like that definitely makes a difference.
Yeah. And we're really big on, especially for homeowners, preventative maintenance.
Yes.
And telling them like, hey, let's, service your HVAC in the fall and the spring, and let's do a few things. Or if we start to have a little problem, let's fix it before it becomes a big problem. That doesn't always help, but most of the time it really does.
Yes. One week in the summer, we had 6 air conditioners. Wow.
Really?
At the same weekend.
The same weekend?
Same weekend.
And let me guess, you were also on vacation.
No, we were.
This will be that vacation. Yeah. Truth.
Sure. No. We did have one of our own it was in the attic, and we were on vacation, and they called and said that water was pouring out of the light in the den. The whole ceiling pretty much caved in because the shutoff switch on the air conditioner didn't shut off.
Oh, it didn't shut off.
And it was just continuing to run, and the moisture was building up. And it didn't help that the people put the air conditioner on 63 degrees.
A guest did that? Oh, yes.
We have walking thermostats in most of our properties, and that will allow that to happen. But so that actually happened twice in the same unit.
And then they got the locking door set. We had one, this is a true story, 6-unit building, 2-story, huge building, and water coming out of the lights, just like what you're talking about. Chandler had the guy cooking dinner with a trash can next to her and the water's going into it. We could not find the water. And it was upstairs, way over 7 miles away in a different pan that had overflowed. But you would have never known it was unit way over there. We were checking the chimney. Yeah. It took us, how long? It took us a while. So we had to force our way into that big, they would not let us in. And we said, this is an emergency. We had checked every other unit. We could not find the source. That was like your first or second month. Yes, it was here.
I go over and inspect all the units before check-in, either myself or my daughter, just to make sure that everything's good for the guests. And I checked this one, it's a Minter property. And then 2 hours later, the people show up and they're like, this unit's flooded. I'm like,
what is?
So I go over there and there's literally like 3 inches of water covering the entire floor. A pipe had burst in the slab and had watered it. We spent about 6 hours just getting the water out. You open the sliding glass door and water just started pouring out like waterfall.
That is, awful. But at least we caught it early enough that we were able to save like furniture and stuff. And
Going on.
Always. Goodness, it's a tough business. I mean, for anyone to be in real estate for a long time, especially in property management, you have a ton of great stories. And you're either laughing about it or you're crying about it.
Yep. And I cry in the moment and you laugh later. That's sort of the way we do it. So, but I always say at the end of the day, if you put your head down on the pillow and you still enjoy what you're doing, then you're in good shape. So you just gotta have a positive attitude about it. I think probably people like us thrive on, at least I know I do, different experiences every day. I don't want the same thing all the time. So you are in the right business stuff.
But then it helps to have a good partner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
A supportive partner.
No, that's true.
So where do y'all see short-term rentals going next? Do you you think this continues down the train, or is there a pivot on the way, or what's your thoughts?
I mean, I think things are going to continue, but I also think that we're seeing a lot of people exit the market who are not successful at it
Every day.
So I think another 12 months from now, somewhere in that time range, we're going to see a lot of people who've sort of been knocked out of it. They can't make money on it. They can't pay their mortgage, for a lot of different reasons, they're going to get out of it. And I think that leaves those of us who have good properties, who've taken good care of our guests and sort of waded through the mess we're in right now to really sort of take off at that point. And like I said earlier, we're learning from all this. I think people need to take a look at their properties. Do they need to put money back into it? Do you need to, do some small things to make your property stand out from other people's? And that's going to get you through these tough times. I always tell owners, people think, I'm just going to go buy a property, throw some furniture there and make some money. You're not guaranteed to make money from day one. Especially in this market, you need to have some reserves in place. We've seen owners get in over their heads where they think they're going to make money month one. They don't have money to pay their mortgage. They're already in trouble from day one. Mm-hmm. If you go buy a house for $500,000 and you've put every penny you have, and the next week the HVAC breaks and you're going to spend $12,000 and you don't have it, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So I think not just for short-term rentals, but anything in real estate, you've got to have some reserves. Don't ever go out and spend every penny you have. Something is going to happen.
You have a backup plan, a contingency plan.
Yeah.
Because the short-term rental market might not work out. It might have to go to a midterm. Yeah. It might have to do the long-term.
Well, no matter what your investment strategy, markets go up and you think it'll be up forever, and it won't. And markets go down and you think it'll be down forever, and it won't. And you have to be able to survive that bell curve, because there is a bell curve, whether you want to admit it or not. It's there.
Yeah. We've lived through that.
Yeah. Back in the 2008, 2009, I mean, we've lost our pants and, sat for about 12 months afterwards and didn't do anything. And then we said, all right, time to start investing again. But, those are the things that teach you a lot of lessons.
Yeah.
I think people who go through those hard times invest a little bit differently moving forward, and hopefully a little bit smarter. And if we can just share that with people who are new to investing, hopefully they'll learn from some of our mistakes. And everybody makes mistakes. Everybody's going to lose money. I was telling somebody at the meetup last week, I said, if it's your first property, yeah, we hope you make a ton, but don't get down. Everything doesn't work exactly the way you think it will, because a lot of it, you're sort of paying yourself to learn some of these lessons too.
I think these markets make you better. Like, they make you,
that's right.
You have to really get really good at what you do. That's what I've noticed. It's like, it used to be just so easy and you felt like you're really good, but then as the market goes down, I wasn't really that good. And then it kind of makes you bear down. Like, you know what? I'm going to get good. That's what I've noticed. I've gotten just way better with just numbers and understanding properties and short-term rentals and all that stuff. Because I was just like, man, I didn't know as much as I thought. Oh, what you did, right? Yeah, so that's the benefit for me.
I've always everything I've ever bought has been based on long-term rental numbers. Even if my plan the entire time was to short-term rent it, where I always buy it carefully. And I did very well back when it wasn't a big thing before COVID. You really could make money with any kind of decor and a decent location or whatever. So I had a ton, but just the last 2 years, in my portfolio, and I still have plenty of furnished rentals, but I have removed furniture out of 11. And then there are 3 or 4 houses that I still have furnished that I chose to rehab and redecorate because I knew I either needed to up my game because I came in, with grandma's attic days of making tons of money. And I was like, I looked at these houses. I said, okay, I've already made really good money. So I'm good. I can long-term or short-term. And so I only kept the ones that I saw still having a future in short-term rentals. And the rest, I literally gave all the furniture away. I turned them into long-term rentals and I'm fine with it. So everyone has to understand that things are going to go up and down. And I made money when times were good. And now actually very happy with the long-term rentals. And the ones I've kept on purpose and they're still doing as well. So anyway,
one thing you're not saying is like during the time you're doing that, rents have also doubled. So like rent you're getting is pretty oval properties. So like, yeah, it's a very good spot to be in.
Yeah, one of the properties I bought, it had a tenant inside for $650 a month. That was very common. If you had a junky property in Savannah back 10, 15 years ago, it was $650 a month. If you had a good property, it was $850 a month. There was no rent payment. It was. So that one was paying $650. She might have paid $600. I think I pushed her to $650. Anyway, once she left, I furnished it. Started making, around $2,000, $2,500 a month on it. It's not like the most amazing giant house. So I was quite happy with that. And then I just took furniture out this year and it's bringing in like $1,750. Yeah. And I'm still thrilled with that. It's like you said, almost triple what I was making, what I would have made, years ago when I bought it. And, you just have to always buy right. Jimmy, that's the most important thing.
And then reinvest at certain points.
Right.
It's like we're always trying to figure out, is it time to replace certain furniture?
Right.
Rugs they go quick. Yeah. But the furniture hopefully lasts a little longer. Yeah. And then what else can we do to this property? Like we have one property that has a big unfinished room in the basement that we've been talking about turning into a game room for that property. And so
I love it.
That's such a good thought that really I don't ever think about either is like the furniture, it has wear and tear and you have to go in and replace it. It's not going to last forever. So that's just a great point to mention.
And you have to mentally be okay with that. You can't be so in love with this carpet that it can't ever leave the unit. And I see that all the time. No, I love this orange couch. I do too. But when it's worn out, we're going to go get a different one. And it's okay too. Like it's an investment. You just have to have this mindset of like, if it's not making me money, it's either making me money or it's costing me money. Mm-hmm. And once stuff gets worn out, it's costing you money.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And we have experienced that firsthand. And so we understand it. It's trying to get some new owners that are new to short-term rentals to understand because, but this sofa is so nice, but it's not going to hold up.
Yeah.
It's particle board, dude. I'm like, get towel. I have a question for you, Andy. In your short-term rental investing, I want to get you talking because we need more Andy. What's the best thing that you've spent money on that's worked out to make you money? And what's the dumbest thing you spent money on for your short-term rental specifically? Like maybe an amenity or a piece of furniture? What's the best thing you spent? What's the worst?
Well, I will say that we have one property. There are a couple of different properties, but one in particular, she painted the fireplace like this bubblegum pink.
Okay.
And I'm like, what in the world are you doing? And she's like, just trust me. And people love it.
Okay.
And I was like, admit when I'm wrong. I said, I was definitely wrong with that. I just, on Lauren's couch.
Right. Yeah. Careful,
And we have another one where she painted this orange accent up the wall, across the ceiling, and then back down, which I was like, what? You're the designer. People love it. But that's the one that we had the leak in. So if I still have to go back and paint that orange stripe. And then as far as
any misses, anything you guys kind of regret? Like, why do we do that? Why did we buy that lamp?
Nothing major. We have one property that has a putting green. Okay. I thought that would be more of a draw, I guess. And it's a nice amenity, but I don't think people look for that when they're coming. It has a nice outside patio with a fire pit and all. I think more people enjoy the fire pit and the patio and they do putting or stuff like that. They're on listeners for sure.
I've noticed that too, because we look at a lot of short-term rentals for sale and stuff. And I have noticed that a lot of the putting stuff, they do appear unused. Have you noticed that?
I don't know. I just learned that for the first time. Honestly, it's good feedback to know.
I'm going to tell you why I think that is. Because at least for us, the majority of people who are making the booking decision and also staying are females.
Yeah.
And I think that although the kids love it and some of the gentlemen love it, I think our amenities need to be geared more towards females.
Who you gear your amenities to is really important. Like, I kind of think, so like a lot of people are starting to think about the golf simulators. I don't think Savannah's really a golf market. Hilton Head is fantastic. Right. It has 4,000 golf courses on Hilton Head. We rented a place with a golf simulator and we couldn't stop using it. We would go golfing, come back, hit the simulator until we went to sleep. That's one thing you got to keep in mind too, is like people are like, oh, should I put a sauna here? I'm like, it's a sauna outside. No, you don't need a sauna.
That's fair.
You have to like really.
Yeah. Think about who where your market is and who your target customer is.
For sure.
Well, this is ridiculous, but Home Goods or someplace had all those cow photos, and a lot of them were these shaggy, long horn. And then as an agent, I'm in a lot of these furnished rentals, and I would see them everywhere. And I was like, "What are you doing?" Savannah does not have. Do we even have? We may have a few cows, but we don't have that many. They definitely don't have big old long horns. They definitely don't have long. But that makes it crazy. Like if you were here and you saw like a Smoky Mountain theme in Savannah, it just makes no sense. And you don't need a beach theme in the Smoky Mountains. Like that agitates me for some reason. What people don't, it needs to, at least like you were saying with the golf, it needs to kind of match the market, because people are coming here for Savannah. They're coming here for a mountain thing.
People want that Southern charm. If they want something fun and different like this, that's still the Southern charm.
Right.
Or they want something, actually, we have a lot of people who book our more traditional houses. They're still fun, but they really want maybe some of that antique furniture, that, toys, wallpaper, the history and the charm of things. They don't want to come into some white box that just got, painted out with a couple pictures thrown on the wall.
Like,
man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and definitely you've got to make it original. Don't go to, Home Goods or all these places and make yours look like everybody else's. Think of something different. Try to be a little bit more eclectic, just because you can go to some of these places and they have a full wall that says all these things match, that's not necessarily the greatest way to do it.
Guests can tell when you like actually put effort into the property. Like, they just know, oh, wow, this is cool. Like, this took some time, and like they want us to have a pretty good time. They definitely can tell. And seems like when you put time into the property, it seems like the guests kind of want to take care of it a little bit.
Yeah, they do.
We've seen that, especially with this property. Like we thought it would be a little more of a party property, but it hasn't. I'm sure they do, but we haven't had to do any cleanups. At least
zero.
Yeah. So,
and part of that's pricing, and we wanted to party at the bars and then stumble back because I didn't cry and sleep here. And so far, I come spread rodeo. Yes, such a girl. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. It's been really great. I've learned so much about you, and that's what we love about this, production, is just getting to know our local real estate investors. And I cannot put two thoughts together at the meetup. I try to have conversations, and I get a bunch of slog going to happen. Right. I just discovered Dalton. I've been calling Austin for like a year and a half, and I just realized last week that I'm so sorry to Dalton, who I knew was the name of the city. But that's how crazy it is at the meetup. And so that's where I appreciate y'all coming, and I can just really spend time with you. Like, I really enjoy being around other real estate investors. And I know that's like a lot of our feedback is like, wow, I got to know so-and-so. And, we're all in this together.
Yeah. Well, it helps people who are just starting to know they're real people in there doing it. Right. These are real stories. We're not just some guy in LA putting on a podcast or writing something, we're right here in the market. We know what's going on, right? And
everyone there seemed genuine. They want to help others. Yes. I mean, and that's what we want to do. We want to be able to try to help people, especially the younger people that come up and ask a lot of questions. Or come back and say, I think that person is going to go somewhere. And we hope that they do. We hope maybe we have a little bit of influence in that.
Well, I love cheering for each other. We always like to hear everybody's wins. And one of my favorite things, this is unrelated to real estate, but I do a lot of public speaking. And I spoke at Islands High School a few months ago about finance and just personal finance in general. And a kid came up to me and he said, how do I invest in the stock market? I didn't really specifically talk about the stock market. I just talked about buy low, sell high. And I said, Robinhood, that's what all the kids use. And he's been messaging me on Instagram. And he's like, I got a Robinhood. I said, how old are you? That's my first question. I said, how old are you? Because I'm in high school. He said, I'm 18. I said, Robinhood, because you have to be 18. And it means so much to me that he reached out like that. I said, that's what I'm proud of. I didn't have that when I started. It doesn't sound like y'all did either. And so we want to have a community here. We want to help each other. It's a great market. There's plenty for everyone.
Right.
If you want to get 7 short-term rentals, we'll help you. So, and I appreciate y'all helping in that way. We want that mentality with this group. That's probably the thing I'm the proudest of, is that it's just a very positive environment. No one's there to show off anything. We're just there to go, hey, I messed up this week. How can I help you with that? Or, we had a guy at the meetup Thursday night. He said, I'm going to sell a property tomorrow. I lose $90,000 and I can't wait. I couldn't wait to be done with this property. Everyone in the room was like, been there.
Yeah.
I mean, he was not alone in that room.
And I like that guy because most people won't have to go to sit there and say that.
That was his win. He said, I'm losing $1,000 tomorrow and I can't wait.
That's a win. Okay. Hey, I respect that.
I do too.
And I appreciate the meetups just for the opportunity to be able to go in and talk to other people. And even if they're in totally different type of real estate, we have something in common, or they might know someone that can help us with a certain situation. It's very beneficial. So we enjoy it.
We appreciate y'all being a big part of the community. I can't say that enough, but thank you for coming on. We hope you'll come back. You're always welcome back. And if people want to reach out to y'all, how can they reach out to you? Is there a way? Do you want us to go through us?
So you can reach out either through our website. You can find us on Instagram or Facebook. We're at Southern Grace Stays.
Southern Grace.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
That's Grace Stays. Beautiful. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate your time. And if you're listening, please like, comment, share, subscribe, share with the grandma. I don't care who you share it with, to share it. We greatly appreciate it. And we will see you on the next
never moving too fast. Fields of green, seeds of split our soul. Running numbers, watch the cash trees grow. Cashflow Savannah, where the dreamers dwell. Get your hustle on, ring that wealth bell. From the dirt to the gold, every story's untold. Cashflow.